Those.
All right, Neo has dug himself in the sand. Neo,
Ah,
re- Neo recently made comments on Vlad TV about his thoughts on children, being gender fluid or deciding that they want to be a different gender, and Neo's comments on that are essentially, as a parent, it's your responsibility to be a parent and not have your child make that decision autonomously. And he's caught a lot of flack for that. People are calling him a hater. They're saying that he hates the LGBTQ community and that he's essentially a bigot
bigot.
is what yeah. Essentially Neo is being called out for bigotry, hatred towards LGBTQIXYNZ community because he believes that parents should play a role in their children's decision to change genders. So crazy notion, right? But we'll go ahead and let Neo speak for himself. First of all, Neo formally apologized for the hot take. And so that'll be the first thing that we talk about. This says here Neo formally apologizes. Neo formally apologizes for transgender children hot take. On the internet, hearing hot takes isn't at all uncommon, but when they come from a celebrity, a debate often ensues immediately. The latest star to cause a stir with their words is Neo, who shared during an interview with Vlad TV that he's not in support of underage people changing their gender. I feel like parents have almost forgotten what the role of a parent is, the Soul Six singer said at the time. If your little boy comes to you and says, Daddy, I want to be a girl, you just going to let him rock with that? When did it become a good idea to let a 12-year-old make a life changing decision for themselves? When backlash for those comments came rolling in, Neil doubled down on his statements, making it clear that he isn't anti trans. Unfortunately, that response only brought in more turmoil, resulting in the R&B icon sharing another message with fans, this time via Twitter. After much reflection, I'd like to express my deepest apologies to anyone that I may have hurt with my comments on parenting and gender identity. He began, I've always been an advocate for love and inclusivity in the LGBTQI plus community, so I understand how my comments could have been interpreted as insensitive. So there is the post there. Neo then went on to admit that gender identity is nuanced and he plans to better educate himself on the topic so he can approach future conversations with more empathy. The 43-year-old wrapped up by writing, At the end of the day, I lead with love and support everyone's freedom of expression and pursuit of happiness. He may not have been fully on board with children making the decision to transition, but one thing Neo is progressive enough for is spending time with two women at once, blah, 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 blah. I don't know why Hot New Hip Hop does that.
I think they have
Um,
like a word quota.
I
It's
don't
just
know why they do that.
it's just like when you
So
just
yeah, yeah. So after that though, Neo issued his own statement,
no.
and he's seemingly digging in, and he is not apologizing for his opinion on it. So we'll go ahead and play this video to kind of see what Neo had to say here, and then we will go ahead and of course opine on his thoughts after we have watched the video.
What's going on, loved ones? This is Neo. All right, listen. I normally don't give too much of a damn about what y'all think about what I do, what y'all have to say about what I say, whatever. I normally don't care because, like I said, opinions ain't special. Everybody got one. However, this is something I feel very strongly on, and I need y'all to hear this from the horse's mouth, not the publicist's computer. So check this out. First and foremost, I do not apologize for having an opinion on this matter. I am a 43-year-old heterosexual man raising 5 boys and 2 girls. Okay, that's my reality. Now, if my opinion offended somebody, yeah, sure, I apologize for you being offended because that wasn't my intention. My intention is never to offend anybody. However, I'm entitled to feel how I feel. I'm absolutely entitled to feel how I feel the same way You are entitled to feel how you feel. I ain't asked nobody to follow me. I ain't asked nobody to agree with me. I was asked a question and I answered the damn question. Okay. I have no beef with the LBGTQIA plus community whatsoever. I ain't got no beef with y'all. Do whatever the hell it is you want to do. Do what you want to do with your kids. However, somebody asked my opinion on this matter, and this is how I feel. I will never be okay with allowing a child to make a decision that detrimental to their life. I will never be okay with that. I don't care. I definitely plan to educate myself a little bit more on this matter. However, I doubt that there's any book
What the hell
anywhere
does that mean?
opinion that somebody's gonna tell me that's gonna make me okay with letting a child make a decision like that. That's just period, point blank, and that's how I feel. If I get canceled for this, then you know what? Maybe this is a world where they don't need a Neo no more. All right. And I got no problem with that. I'm a hustler. All right. I'll figure it out. I got kids to raise, and I'm gonna do that regardless. So with that being said, y'all have a good day. I love everybody. Live how you want to live, love how you want to love, but your opinion is yours. Speak your opinion as much as you damn well feel like it. Because as I said, they're not important, they're not special. Everybody got one, and you're entitled to it. I'm entitled to mine. All right. Y'all feel how y'all want to feel. Have a great day. It's Neo. Peace and love.
When my old lady accused me of some stuff, just using saying the wrong, because I always say the wrong thing. I'm gonna just say I'm gonna just educate myself more on the matter.
I'm glad you found that funny the way I did, because that's what I started laughing is when he said I was with him except for that part.
So
I
you
don't know
think
why
me?
he said.
So you think you gonna slip that by the goalie, bro? So you gonna sit here and talk all that stuff like you 10 toes down and then take a toe off? I saw it, bro. Now you got 9 toes. Unbelievable. But hey, man,
That's exactly when he said that. I couldn't hold my laughter in, because it's like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, what do you mean you're definitely going to educate yourself? Either this is your opinion or it's not.
Hey, man,
but
he's
trying to dig himself into the sand, but he's still trying to do as much collateral. He's trying. It's weird. It's like you're trying to stand on your ground, but also trying to minimize collateral damage, bro. Hey, look. Stand on what you believe, and who gives, be like Chappelle don't care about no collateral damage. So hey, take on the collateral damage. But what did you think about that?
Hey man, listen, I'm gonna just stick with this. So it's kind of like, when we talk about LeBron and stuff, and we say like he's presidential and stuff, there's so many people watching, admiring, hanging on every word that he says. They're on his Twitter. They watch his press conferences. You know what I'm saying? So everything that comes out of this person's mouth is going to be broken down because they're so famous and well known. So for Neo, and that being famous and well known is directly correlated to a bag, sponsorships and things like that. So you can't say how you really feel. And so Neo said how he really felt. But then he had to give the corporate, hey, man, I still got a job, guys. So when you're watching celebrities, they're constantly on the clock. All right. You think they getting paid while they sleep? Oh, okay. They still working while they sleep. Because when they sleep in the wrong bed, somebody could take a picture and now you got exposed and now you out of job, or you know what I'm saying? So these people are constantly under microscope, constantly at work. So I do appreciate him trying to be as real as he can in that situation, but he had to give us a hint of bullshit for the corporate interests out there. So I'll give him a slide because I done said some real corporate shit on my job before. So I'll give him that. But I appreciate what he said here. It needed to be said from a voice like Neo. All right. I'm pretty sure he has a lot of fans in that community. I'm pretty sure they go to his shows regularly, buy his albums, and are fans of his stuff. He's got a few anthems, all right, that I'm sure that plays in those nightclubs. So, you don't want to turn your back on that community. However, there's still a standard of raising a child that America needs to really I feel like there's enough people out there that's trying to protect the children from this onslaught that seems to be going on against them. So we need people like Neo on the forefront. You know, even though, you know, aesthetically, I would have been like, this guy's a liberal all day. You know, I figured he'd be on the Breakfast Club with Charlemagne and DJ Envy, chuckling it up. You know what I'm saying, about this topic and saying, yeah, I'm all about hormone replacement. Now I won't do that for my kids, but if your child wants to, I would assume that this is where he was at. So for him to actually say that, then double down and say, hey, nah, I meant what I said, and that's how I feel about it. You know, kudos to him. I applaud him. And I think more celebrities that actually do feel this way do need to unmute. And I guess we'll get into this later, but there's people that always felt like this, though, that are co-opting a genuine movement so they can do whatever the hell they want. And then now they're pushing their stuff, you know, against the will of the people that naturally were in that movement in the first place, that just wanted to not get ridiculed and slurred just for something that they feel like they can't help. So now these people are here coming over here co-opting the entire situation just so they can get their fantasies in. All right. So how about you, man? This is a touchy dynamic. We don't want to get canceled here at the Conscious Approach, but how do you feel about this, man? Do you feel like Neo is right here, or do you think he needs to come off of it a little bit and allow those kids to take those hormone replacements?
I think that there's a lot of people who feel the way Neo feels, but yeah, you just can't compromise the bag by being honest. And that's the sad part about this world that we live in, is that it's just built on lies and disingenuousness. In addition to, as you put it in the last video that we did last week, it's built on scammers and what did you say? You said it's built on scammers and crime syndicates or something like that. But yeah, like I appreciate Neo's comments, and I think that they are spot on, except for that little retraction that he threw. He just kind of he sandwiched that in there. Oh, I'm gonna educate myself, and it's like, nah, man, you was hot before you said that. Like, you were good before you did that. And then he put that in there because he's trying to nevertheless minimize the collateral damage. But I get it. He's still a celebrity. He's still a working celebrity. He's still a working person in the entertainment industry and in Hollywood. So you've got to try and curtail some of your rhetoric so as to not totally alienate crazy people, as far as I can tell. But the spirit of his message to me is 100% spot on. I agree with the spirit of what he said. My whole thing with this has been pretty consistent in that, and this somewhat relates to the last topic that we discussed and some of my talking points therein, is we've created this environment where there is a hardened right and wrong side. So to have this opinion means you're right, and to have this opinion means that you're wrong. And when it comes to this particular topic, if you have the opinion that you have a preference for your children to not be gender fluid or change their genders, it means you're wrong. That's what this has become. So what I have always said is, if Neo were to go on to CNN, MSNBC, or BBC, or you couldn't say this on Fox because they wouldn't have it on Fox. But let's say Neo was on CNN or MSNBC or BBC or one of these other news media channels, right? TV One, Revolt, or those other channels like that. And they were discussing this topic, or somehow it came up during the interview. And the person who was interviewing Neo was like, how do you feel about your children wanting to decide what gender they want to be? If Neo were to answer that question by saying, I would be cool with my kids choosing their own gender, I would be okay with that. I would welcome my children deciding to change the gender and be a different sex other than the sex that they were assigned at birth. He would be heralded as a hero for having that take. People would be championing him. They would clap for him. They would be in the streets talking about how brave he is, how much of a hero Neo, how much of a hero, how much of a modern day Renaissance man Neo is, because he wants his children to choose whatever gender they want. Now, conversely, if Neo goes onto those same news networks and gets asked the same question, and he responds by saying, no disrespect to anybody who's, no disrespect to anyone, because I'm not at my core someone who has hate in his heart. But in terms of my personal ideology when it comes to family values, I personally have a preference for rearing my children in such a way that they identify with the sex in which they were born. I would prefer it if I did not have children who were gender fluid or who chose to be transgender. If he had that take, he would get destroyed for that. He would get absolutely destroyed. And there's nothing unreasonable about having that personal preference. But if you express that preference publicly, you will get destroyed. His career might be over. He's definitely going to get canceled in the liberal space. And my point with that has always been, hey, listen, at the most, these points of view are disagreeable. You don't have to agree with Neo, who wants to raise his son to be a man. If you don't agree with that, let him raise his family the way he wants, and he ain't bothering you. You raise your family the way you want, and y'all can meet in the middle. Neo ain't throwing stones at your house. He ain't trying to throw you in the gallows. He ain't trying to put you in the gulag because you want your kids to be transgender. So if he doesn't, who cares? It's a disagreeable point of view at the most. It's a difference of preference when it comes to family values. But for a lot of these people, that's unacceptable. They cannot accept that. You have to be someone who is willing to publicly state that you're okay with doing this. And that is, I think, is what is at the heart of detractors of this whole thing, like me and you. Because like the previous thing, body positivity, hey, look, this is something that you can't help. Something happened, you want to change your sex, you're of age, where you're of a maturity level that allows you with the ability to be able to make this decision. And for all intents and purposes, even though you aren't legally self-actualized, you are of an age where nobody can sort of be like, hey, you can't make this choice. Go ahead and do what you got to do. That's one thing. But for a lot of the segment of this population who is trying to encourage kids to welcome the idea that you can just change your gender or be fluid, that's where the rubber meets the road for people who want to criticize this kind of ideology. It's dangerous rhetoric. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with an individual like Neo saying, I have my preference when it comes to family values. If my underage child, whose brain is still developing, came to me and said, I want to change my sex, I am going to interject myself into that situation as a responsible parent and prohibit it. He's well within his right to do that. Leave him the hell alone. So I think that's what he was trying to get across with saying, hey, this is my opinion. If you don't like it, so be it. I don't care. You do what you want with your own family, and we'll let bygones be bygones. We mentioned this in a previous video, but the woman who played DJ, I think, on Full House, Candace Cameron, somebody fact check me on that. I think that was her character on Full House. The oldest daughter, DJ. She's a grown heterosexual woman raising kids in a heterosexual context. And she went out publicly saying, I am in a partnership with Hallmark Channel to create content and programming that is geared towards heterosexual marriages and families. I want to create the type of programming that is tailored towards people who are in heterosexual marriages and families, specifically heterosexual marriages and families within a Christian context, because I, shocker, was raised as a Christian. Now, if you don't agree with that, fine. Not everybody's a Christian, and no one's saying that everybody's supposed to be Christian. But she was called a bigot because she said, I want to create that kind of programming. Where are we at with this kind of stuff? This is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. She was called a bigot merely because she says she wants to create programming that tailors towards heterosexual marriages and families. And that's bigotry. So very much like body positivity and certain facets of the racial conversation, these conversations have been co-opted by a fanatical extreme element that wants to see a world descend into a state of social anarchy, in which people are just choosing genders, choosing sexes, and doing it as a fashionable Vogue statement instead of it being something that is at your core as a human being, because it's something that you simply cannot help, because that's truly who you are. They just want people out here willy-nilly doing whatever the hell they want. So, like, I appreciate Neil for saying, hey, this is my opinion, and if you don't like it, cancel me, I guess. And on another note, Conscious Approach, for anyone who is unaware, I've already canceled this channel. So you can't cancel what's already been canceled. So nobody is going to come over here talking about cancel these dudes because they're crazy and they're bigots. Hey, listen, I've already canceled myself. Conscious Approach is already canceled. So you can do with that what you will. But for Neo's statements, outside of that whole, I'm going to educate myself, because that just looked like a whole walking back diatribe. Like, I appreciate his sentiments, because at the very most, these are disagreeable points of view. And what has been lost in this social dialogue is the ability to understand that there are disagreeable points of view. And that's pretty much it. So kudos to Neo for the comments outside of that one part that I didn't like. And to hell with everybody else who wants to now say that he's a hater just because he has his own preferences when it comes to family values.
Yeah, it's utter lunacy. What's going on? The ideologies that's being promoted in public school systems, higher institutions, every television program, from Blocks and Colors all the way up to TVMA shows on Netflix. This is happening everywhere. And what are these young people supposed to do when they're being told that they're trans, or they're possibly trans, or trans is an option? I've seen stuff where they're allowing kids to identify as damn near anything. And right now, see, we haven't seen it yet.
Right.
All right. So our generation ain't even getting Social Security. But let's imagine our generation gets some form of the new age Social Security. But we got to stand in some kind of line or something, get serviced. And I have to go to the young people of the world that are now the leaders and, the employees of wherever. Hey, young man. Hey, young man, I don't know how to work these new phones. And this guy who identified as a tiger since he was 7, and people played into that. So now with his, tiger paint at work, installed whiskers, and he's, I'm like, excuse me, son, I don't know how to use this app. And it's like, what? What am I supposed to do? This is the generation of people that's supposed to take care of us? Yeah, bro. We're screwed, bro. We're screwed. So look, we already seen the impact of the mind control that was going on a generation up under us. We already see what happened with them now. And so we can only imagine what these people that are allowed to identify as anything decide to do with their energy and their mind. How they decide, how that develops into being an adult who is literally out of his mind. So for this whole dynamic to be pushed throughout whatever's going on. Hey, all these how to raise your kid techniques that ain't got nothing to do with strict discipline. All of these things of, stand in the corner, count to 10 jive that they've been promoting and pushing since we were coming up. Now it's full form. Now all of these kids are growing up tissue soft, because of being coddled and stuff like that. They don't respect any authority due to all of this stuff that they're pushing and pushing and pushing on the youth. And so right now, this youth, the youth is under full-fledged attack. Any viewers, if you got children, I'm pretty sure you already see it happening on every corner. You know what I'm saying? More power to you. You know what I'm saying? I'm wishing the best for y'all. And Neo, a man who's got 5 kids himself, he says, or whatever. He understands the importance of raising your seed, and if the fruit don't fall too far from the tree, he's entitled to raise his children however the hell he wants to. So but yeah, man, the madness of coming to a child who doesn't even know anything. I mean, don't even know anything, and asking them, do they want to wear a dress? Of course they're going to say, yeah, they don't know anything, man. And to me, you can't go around bullying impressionable minors about anything sexual. And for the parents that are doing that to their biological children, the parents that takes their biological children to drag shows and stuff like that, I don't know what's going on with them, but they had kids for a particular reason. And you can't allow these outliers to dictate what the rest of society is doing. So, Neo, I'm here with you, bro. I might have to educate myself more on the matter of whatever the hell you said, but I agree with most of your statements, sir. So
yeah, I feel the same way. I don't know where we've gone with this, where it's like we completely want to disregard the context in which somebody lived. And there's a line of demarcation between what's reasonable and what's not. So yes, let's all be reasonable and intelligent human beings. Just because you were raised within a racist context doesn't make it okay or excusable for you to be a racist into adulthood, right? That is not subjective. That is an objective thing to say. We all understand that line of demarcation. We know what's reasonable and what is not. But things like sexual preferences, gender identity, family values, these are all nuanced issues that are rooted in all sorts of different forms of psychosis, child rearing, socialization, education, all of this kind of stuff. As he said, there's no book out there that's going to tell you doing this is what's best for your child's upbringing. So, stop trying to disregard people's context. An individual who was born within a heterosexual context as an adult is probably going to lean towards raising their own children the same way. If they have a preference for that, there's nothing bigoted or hateful about it. But that's where we've gone with this, where we want to disregard the context in which people were reared within a reasonable sense and leap to the conclusion that if you're not okay with this in terms of your worldview, it means that there's something in you that needs to be corrected. There's nothing that needs to be corrected about that. It's a personal preference. We all have the ways that we feel about family values. This shit is ridiculous. And it's scary too. What they're trying to do in the school systems and all of that kind of stuff. I don't have children of my own. I've always said that I would at some point. And my plan of action in terms of how to sidestep all of this madness, I'm gonna be real, I have not come up with that plan yet. I don't know what my strategy looks like. But it's unfortunate and it's frightening to see where this situation has devolved to, where people who have those differing points of view are being outed for being hateful or being anti, not being an ally. Hey, look, raise your family the way you want. I'll raise my family the way that I want. and we'll call a spade a spade. It is what it is. But that apparently just isn't a good enough for some of these extremists who are living out here amongst us. And I do agree that those extremists represent the minority of the population. I've always
Absolutely.
believed that the majority of the population are reasonable people who are just
Exactly.
trying to live life and do the best they can.
Exactly.
Ain't nobody tripping off of this shit. But
Exactly.
these extremists are the loudest people. They're the loudest, and they're the ones who are on the internet the most because they got all the time in the world. They don't got kids of their own, so they want to tell you how to raise your children. It's the most ironic shit in the world. People who have families, people who are in that middle ground, who are reasonable, don't have all of this time to sit out here electronically picketing on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter because they're too busy taking their kids to soccer practice or doing laundry or going to work or going to church or going to the grocery store or planning vacations or going to the gym or taking their daughter to the next recital or whatever the hell. They're too busy living life to sit here doing all of this stuff, engaging in all of this social anarchy hyperbole. So these extremists are left to be the loudest on the internet, screaming to the mountaintop that all of these bigots out here need to be outed for their bigotry. And you know that groundswell of that loudness on the internet, the vocal minority, creates this idea that that is the majority of the people in their mindset, when it's not. The majority of the people are reasonable and just want to be left to their own devices to do whatever they want. And if they so happen to express their opinions, here come these extremists who want to call them a bigot or call them hateful. How dare you want to create programming for heterosexual people? To that extent, how dare you even want to be heterosexual? And it's like, hey man, listen, do what you do, and I'll do what I do. We all got enough space on this earth to live, so let's just make it work the best we can. It's as simple as that. So I don't know. I find a lot of this stuff to be deeply disturbing. I'm glad that he didn't all out apologize for his opinion. I just wish that he didn't throw that mulligan in there about educating himself, because he's good where he's at, bro. You are entitled to have the preferences that you have when it comes to how you want to raise your family. It's your family, and that's it.
Hey man, just educate yourself more on the matter, man, and maybe you'll understand why he had to say that. So
I understand. I just don't like it. I don't like it. It's ridiculous. This is crazy, bro.
And I think this is my last thing. I think it's the loud minority for sure, and also these large entities that change their logos in a certain month that push these things. And so because they're the ones that control these media outlets and double down and are quick to cancel. Now, it's one thing if people on Twitter are mad at you, but people get mad at people on Twitter all day. But it's when the outlets grab a headline or grab the tweet or grab the X and decide to drag this person's name through the mud for their opinion. So there's a lot of things at play, and there seems to be an interest to push this on everybody, because it's on our TV shows, it's on everything. So it's more than just the Twitter bangers. I think there's also something else going on too. So I mean, hey, thanks Neo. Thanks Neo. That was a funny bar you dropped in there, man. But I hear you loud and clear, and that took a lot. So I appreciate him, man. And these people be having a lot on the line, bro.
Yeah.
Some people will stop going to his shows over this.
Right.
So so people feel that deeply about these types of things. So he's risking his bag. And nowadays, man, the way things is going, celebrity or not, multimillionaire or not, everybody's got a lifestyle that they've gotten accustomed to over the last decade or so. And those things are in jeopardy, man. And so I'm right now, I sympathize with everybody that's going through these things. Hey man, I ain't trying to lose my bag. And it's like, hey man, it's like, Neo, don't lose your bag over this.
Yeah.
getting tripped up on a DJ Vlad question. Hey, should have known better, man. You should have known.
Yeah. Well, you know what they say, the corporations in the entertainment industry, they're doing it because it's inclusive. It's inclusive. It's inclusivity.
That is the most
That's what that's
triggering
all
word.
about, man. That's what that's all about. It's about being inclusive. And who in their right minds that would ever argue with anyone who is trying to be inclusive?
My
So,
goodness.
what are you gonna do?
Bro, people are gonna look back on us, bro. They're gonna look back on this generation and go, those people were idiots. And it's just
see.
man, hey, not all of us, man.
Yeah,
not all of us.
We'll see. But for now, the idiots are winning. I'll say that much. Oh God,
that's for sure.